telling me.
Alright, so today we're finally going to drop off all of the engine parts at the machine shop. I did end up changing machine shops. I was originally going to go to a place down in Hudson, but I got a recommendation from a friend that there's a place up in Concord, New Hampshire, part of the Sonnell's kind of family of companies. They have a machine shop in there, and they do good work, and they've done a lot of good work for him, and he's a mechanic, so he does it full time, so I trust him. So I'm heading up there right now on this very rainy Columbus day to go drop this stuff off, and hopefully we can get this engine build back on track. Alright, so today we're heading up to Concord to pick up the motor from the machine shop. Everything's all set, and looking forward to getting everything back and getting this build back on the road. It's January 2nd, so I dropped this stuff off back in early October. Told them no rush because I had a lot of stuff going on throughout the holidays, and they gave me a call the other day and said that everything's all set. So looking forward to seeing what they came up with and getting everything back and getting going. Alright, so welcome back. It's been a few months since I last recorded anything, and I just obviously went and picked up all of the engine parts from Sonnell's up in Concord today. They did a really great job. Cleaned up all the parts. They all look brand new, better than new. So let's talk about a little bit of what we got done here. We had them properly gap all the rings on all the pistons, so those are ready to be installed. We had them check the clearances on the crank because we upgraded the crankshaft to forged, and we upgraded the hardware from bolts to studs in the main bearing. So they did a line hone, they decked the head, decked the block. They actually did a valve job. We found out during the process that the head was actually from a later 07K, which is actually good. Flows a little bit better. There's a couple 07K variants. The earlier ones were 150 horsepower. The later ones were 170 horsepower, and that's largely because of a higher flowing head. So that's the head that this block had. It's not the one that it came with. So at some point in this engine's life, it was swapped out for our benefit, which is good. One thing that prolonged the process is I didn't realize that you need this timing cover for when you deck the head. They do this all together. They bolt it together, obviously, so the surface is the same height. So I had to run up there a month or so ago and bring that to them. So yeah, I think we're in really good shape here to start putting things together. I do need to put in an order for all the gaskets and the timing chains and all that not so fun maintenance stuff, but I will do that shortly. And we can start putting all this stuff together here shortly. You might have noticed in the video as well, little updates. We got a new truck. It's a 22 Ram 2500 with the 6.7 turbo diesel, which I'm pretty pumped about. We have the camper now, so this will tow that a lot better. All right, that's enough truck stuff. Let's get back to Porsche things. All right, let's get this unwrapped and get it on the engine stand. Hey, Nora. No, I don't trust my plug. Bonus, no, yes. Yep. Okay. Bye-bye. All right, here we go. Let's get this thing on. All right, now we can show you a little bit more about the work we did on this motor. So we got this on the stand. Now you can kind of see all the work that was done. We got a decked head here, looking nice and fresh. You can tell all the cylinders were honed. You can see that from here. looking good. We hot tanked it too, so like you can see the block itself looks like brand new. See the Audi and Volkswagen symbol right there. I'll try to put a picture or video of what it looked like before, but if you remember, it was all rusty, painted black. This side's going to be a little dark, but you can see what this side looks like. I'll flip it over in a minute because there was some work done to the crank here too. If you want to upgrade the hardware on these, meaning run studs in the crank journals instead of bolts, you need to get a line hone. These clamp a lot harder than a standard Volkswagen bolt, so they send a hone through here to make sure this is all perfectly rounded as well. And I'll flip that over so we can see here in a sec. Let's check out the other side here. Haven't seen it yet, so you and I are going to see it for the first time together. All right, so here you can really see the ARP hardware. But yeah, basically they just send, similar to like a cylinder hone, they send a hone through the here with everything bolted down, and it just makes sure that this is perfectly round, because these will actually clamp harder than your stock ones. So just an important thing to think about if you're going to run these studs. These are from a TTRS, I believe. That's the part number I use. They fit good. Obviously we'll have to pull them off to put the crank in, but before I sign off for today, I'll do my best to kind of explain all the different things that were done and why. So I just talked about the line hone. That makes sure these are perfectly straight for when you put the new crank in, because any kind of impurities in the roundness of these holes will cause the crank to bind up. And since we're doing an upgraded crank, I did have them check tolerances with the bearings and make sure everything's going to work here, which they did for me, which is great. So that was important to be able to run that crank. Let me put this down and flip this over, and we'll talk about the other side. So on the other side, these are things that you want to do pretty much anytime you build a motor. So anytime you're upgrading, anytime really you're rebuilding an engine, you'll do a hone on the cylinders as well to make sure your new piston rings and pistons fit and seal perfectly. This is important. For this engine, we are running aftermarket pistons, so I did have them check the rings, pistons. They were meant to run in a stock motor, so I don't think they had to do much, but good to get checked out while it's at the shop. And I guess we'll move on to the head, because I think that's pretty much it besides the hot tank process, which basically returns the motor to looking like brand new. So the head needed a little bit more work than we thought. Ended up needing a valve job, because, and I'll show you what that means here in a minute, but first things first, we had this hot tanked as well. That's why it looks brand spanking new. And then we had the bottom of this, obviously decked. The head will have a perfectly flat mating surface. You can see from here, let me balance that and see if I can get you a closer view here. Zoom in. So there's the bottom of the head. You can see they really did take this apart, because they labeled all the valves and checked to make sure they all seated correctly, which they didn't originally. So all this has been pulled apart. Valves have been lapped, which is basically they sand the surface in between the valve and the head until there's a perfect seal. So when they're closed, there's no blow by or anything like that. And lastly, you can see at the top here, everything's perfectly clean on the inside. Again, I'll have to put a picture of what this looked like when I dropped it off. These are all yellow and black and gross, but you'll see there's new valve seals in there. Obviously they pulled this all apart, resealed it. You can see there's fresh sealant across the whole edge, new crank seals in the end. And yeah, everything on this is ready to be mated. I'm working on getting the parts ordered so that we can mate these two things together, put timing chains and everything in. See what else we got. So some nuts and bolts. They also put all new freeze plugs into the engine as well. All the old ones are in here. We got pistons, wrist pins, and the crank. What are these? Rods and main bearings. ARP instructions. And here's that. See if there's a... This is the stud kit I got. I'm gonna slap the valve cover on this to keep this free of getting all junked up. Looks like they cleaned this as well, which was nice. Which way does this go? This way. We have a new valve cover for this, but for now we shall put this on here. One other thing I wanted to mention just while I am talking about the head here, I'm still looking for a head stud kit from ARP. I think I found one. But in learning a little bit more about this, I learned that for some of the ARP head stud kits, in order to install them, you actually need to pull all the camshafts out because you can't get a tool in. I don't know if you remember from one of my earlier videos, but these cams are actually kind of recessed so that you can get, see if I can get this, I don't have great lighting over here, so you can get a tool down in there. But with the ARP studs, they're more of the, you need a socket instead of a triple square, which takes up a little bit more space. So I heard that you might need to take these apart actually to install ARP head studs, which is kind of a shame because everything's already sealed up here. But anywho, let's keep unboxing. I'll show you the crank, and that'll probably be it for today. And then I got a little guy here waking up. There's one other thing I think we should chat about with the crank that just people who are building these engines should be aware of. Get to that in a second. Alright, let's talk cranks for 1 second. I know we've done a whole episode and stuff about this, so I won't go too hard. But just wanted to let you know, some of the 07Ks, especially if you're going to be swapping cranks, this gear can actually be different from year to year. So some of them have like a more longer, like less of a sprocket looking gear, more of a, it's just, I'll try to put a picture on the screen, but it's longer. It's going to be different, you'll notice. But you need to make sure if you are getting a new timing belt set that you account for that, because you're going to need a new timing, a different timing belt for the oil drive and a different sprocket for the oil drive to match it. Luckily for me, this gear is the same as the one, here let me go over here, on my stock crank, so I don't have to worry about that. I can just get the standard timing chain kit, but just wanted to let people know about that. But yeah, let's see, here's all the parts. Time to get to work. So I think that's where we're going to wrap this episode. I do want to just call out one more quick thing that I like to do. Anytime you're working on an engine with a lot of fresh components and freshly honed, I like to throw a little bit of WD-40 on the cylinder surfaces just so that nothing oxidizes or rusts. You never know, like especially as like a parent, you never know when the next time you're going to be able to work on your stuff is. So I just want to keep everything nice and clean until next time we're out here working on it. Hopefully be soon. I also just want to call out, I did get a new camera. So still getting used to it. I got a stabilizer or a gimbal coming soon, so hopefully it'll be a little bit clearer, but just trying to improve the quality of the photos and videos that I take, and hopefully once we do get to the swapping of the engine, it'll look really cool in here. So yeah, until next time.